Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It is Thursday, August 1st, 2024. I'm your host, George Kerth, joined by the one and only Cody Roadcap. And Cody, you heard me right. I said August, 1 month until the NFL season starts. Maybe a couple
Whoa,
extra. We're going to.
whoa. If you're listening to this podcast the day it drops, we got the Hall of Fame game. We got Bears, Texans tonight. NFL is back. No Caleb Williams, no CJ Stroud, but the NFL is back.
And they said they're not playing their starters. So if Josh Jacobs were to play in this game, this is a hypothetical back to last year's Hall of Fame game, if you remember. That's not a good sign if we're going to try to draft him in fantasy, but
maybe you want to draft him this year now that he's on a new team. But how you been? I feel like you got a lot of good updates about the Couch GMs podcast. You might want to hit these people with.
Yeah,
or
well,
softly toss to them.
We're gonna softly toss to the people that if you miss us when we're on our off weeks in the off season, that is officially over. Now that it is August, we are going to be here in your feeds every Thursday morning through the month of August. Still working out some details on when the season comes, but you might get even more than one episode a week coming up soon. Little hint, nudge at you.
Yeah, and not just if you were with us last year, we did like a Couch GMs World Cup and a regular episode. Rumor has it, little birdie speaking, 2 episodes potentially live. Still working out the details. Couch GMs content coming strong, coming soon.
So you're not going to want to miss it. Make sure you follow us on our social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at the Couch GMs. You can also find us by searching the Couch GMs Football Podcast on YouTube, where you can find the podcast episode and even more than comes from that. And as always, feel free to send us a DM anywhere with your fantasy questions, and we will answer them on the show. And watch out for any lives where you might be able to ask us as it happens. But all right, Cody, as we always do to start off our episodes, why don't we sit back, relax, and chat? I'd like to note how we started this segment, I think before last season, and the graphic says sits back, relax, let's chat. And I always say and chat, and we just haven't changed it. It's just we're dueling on this the entire time.
Hey man, what was the other one that from last year that I had to eventually change because you wouldn't leave me alone about it?
Man, why do I forget? That was the best.
We'll think some in the middle of the show, middle of the draft that we're going to do later, 6th round, George's blot out, whatever that was. We'll think about it. It was Survivor picks, but
Survivor picks, man. Survivor picks.
There we go. See, we got there eventually.
Yeah, we did. All right. We like money. We might not be making as much as some of these guys, but we had some big contracts drop over the next few weeks.
But make sure you subscribe so maybe one day we can.
Yeah. Right? There we go. How about it? We talked about the Bears playing in the Hall of Fame game. Why don't we talk about DJ Moore getting a bag? 4 years, $110 million on his contract extension, $82.6 million guaranteed to not play in the Hall of Fame game. Cody, what are your thoughts?
Hey, this is a great move. As a Packers fan, I hate it.
They've been doing a lot of good moves in my mind.
They have been. I mean, they got extremely lucky that they were able to swindle the Panthers, and the Panthers still fell into the number 1 overall pick, which they were able to draft Caleb. And we'll see how that plays out. It's still the Bears, so they have a lot to do. But, DJ Moore is now a piece that is going forward. It's his 3rd contract. It's still only 27 years old. And I think they did this a year early, so I think he still has 2 years under his belt. I'd have to double check that, but I think he's tied to the team now till 2029 because it's an extension. I guess it's an extension, not a new contract. So it doesn't go into effect till after this year. So he's tied to the Bears for a while. They drafted Rome Odunze. I don't think you have to worry too much about him. He was always going to be like a guy that could break out potentially, but he was going to be slow rolled as they have Keenan Allen, but Keenan Allen only has 1 year left. So they locked up that guy. They got Rome Odunze. They're making a lot of moves, and this is a good deal. And there's definitely some wide receivers out there that are taking a close look at this contract because it wasn't Justin Jefferson, and it was a good value for where he's at in the overall wide receiver market.
And Over the Cap does not have his new contract details yet, but it does have that he was under contract with the Bears for 2024 and 2025. So yes, that should lock him up until 2029. So good call on that one. I mean, did we even mention they had Keenan Allen too? I missed that part while I was looking for Over the Cap. They made a
Yep.
lot of moves.
But Keenan Allen's like the guy, like he'll be there. His contract is like one I mentioned only this year, and then he's up. So he might be like a stopgap for Rome Odunze. I mean, if he has a
Mhm.
really good year, they'll probably bring him back.
Or he's going to go try to find himself a 2-year, as much money as he can deal somewhere else to try to win a ring somewhere. I could see that
Exactly.
happening.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong; these are great moves, and the Bears are trending in the upward direction. I'm not ready to say the Bears are Super Bowl contenders quite
Some
yet.
people are, which is ridiculous in my mind.
I agree, and that's not just me being a homer, but I do think it's, they're trending in the right direction. I will say it's always better when the Packers and Bears rivalry means something, which it hasn't over the last couple of years. This is the Bears; they can still mess it up. But DJ Moore did get, the most lucrative contract in franchise history, which just goes to show their track record at drafting quarterbacks.
They still haven't had a quarterback break 4,000 yards. Am I right?
Nope, but Jordan Love did in his first season.
Yes, he did, but we're not on him yet. Highest paid quarterback in NFL history, Tua Tagovailoa. 4 years, $212 million, $167 million guaranteed down in Miami. And Miami fans have such mixed reactions because I think there's a lot of thought of like, is he just putting up big numbers but not going to be able to get over the top? I'm still very torn on Tua, and I mean, the fact that he was due for another contract means that he was going to get a bag this big. It's just how the quarterback market works. Jalen Hurts was highest paid quarterback for 2 minutes, and then Lamar got it, and now Lamar and Hurts, in terms of average per year, are like 7th and 8th in the league now because everyone just gets more money.
Definitely, and you know, we saw it too. Tua got signed, then the next guy we're going to talk about got signed for a little bit more. You know, but you're right. The Tua thing is, it's, the age old question: is it the system or is it the quarterback? And Tua,
Or is it a lot of speed?
that, but like Tua is, you know, I don't want to compare him to Tom Brady. That's not what I want to do. But his play style, not like Tom Brady is, for as great as he was, winning all the Super Bowls. There wasn't like any physical aspect about of his game that just wowed you. But he just knew what to do at the right time, at the right moment, and could deliver an accuracy ball. He wasn't fast. He didn't have the strongest arm. And that's kind of like where Tua is. Like, Tua's not the fastest. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he 90% of the time puts the ball where it's supposed to go on any given play. So he's very much
Mhm.
well in the system. And I think that's part of the reason he got this contract, was because in Mike McDaniel's system with the Miami Dolphins, there's not really a better quarterback to play in that offense than a Tua. Now, if Tua were to go to the Panthers, might not look great. And I think that's kind of just where we're at. But at least he led the league in passing yards, I believe, last year. Yes, that's a lot of
Yep.
speed. But some guys like Daniel Jones just got bagged because their contract ran out.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but I think if anyone is worried, I mean, I don't know if this is going to help or hurt because the 49ers haven't gotten over the edge and won that Super Bowl. They've been very close, but the Mike McDaniel offense is very similar to the Kyle Shanahan offense. It is very quarterback friendly. They look for guys who are just, smart with the ball, not necessarily the most talented, like you said with Tom Brady. Maybe
Brock
Tua and
Purdy.
Brock Purdy are very good
Yes,
compliments when it
that would
comes
be
to
a good
that as
one.
well. We don't know if they're gonna be able to get over the top with it because we've talked about how Miami's close, but they just don't seem like they have that last spark. San Francisco's been close, but when it comes to fitting the offense, that's a great point. It is exactly what they're looking for that scheme.
Definitely. And we teased him a little bit too with Jordan Love. He did sign about 6 hours after Tua, which is interesting. They both have the same agency, and it was just like, oh, maybe Tua's not going to get as much, so let's let him sign first so we can not
So
make it
does
look like we
Tua
took a
fire
step
his
back.
agent because he let his agent let him sign before Jordan Love?
Who knows? Dak also shares the same agency, so
Well, that's
he's
not
part.
working, but I think that's
He's
the
looking at
Cowboys'
those
fault.
exactly. But Jordan Love, 4 years, $22 million. So the number is bigger, but only 160 in guarantees. He did have a
220,
record.
not 22.
Oh, yep, I can't read.
Yeah.
He did have a record-breaking $75 million signing bonus. That's what these contracts are. There's a lot of structural things. And it's also worth noting when you see that 4 years, 220 million, that's a $55 million a year APY, which would put him right there with Joe Burrow. But again, this is an extension, not a new contract. He was only going to make 10 million this year. So if you look at it, it's really a 5-year, 230 point something million dollar contract. So a really good, you take his APY that way, he's a little bit lower. So a good contract for both him and the Packers. He balled out last year, especially in the second half of the season. And this contract was, let's pay him, but they didn't have to get him to 60 million. They didn't have to beat Joe Burrow. They didn't have to break the market. Yeah, they gave him the highest signing bonus, but that's again another salary cap maneuver more than anything. And he doesn't have a salary, like his salary cap numbers are still pretty low over the next couple of years, which will be good as the salary.
Exactly. They took a couple of notes out of the Jalen Hurts extension playbook. The fact that he is getting the extension instead of the straight 4-year 220 means he's at about 46 a year, if I'm correct, average per year, which I mean is still obviously very high, but when you look at it, it's not as high as the Tua, the Burrow, the Patrick Mahomes. I think is lower, but he's trying to work out a contract extension currently as well. Cody is having a little bit of a technical difficulty over there, so I'm trying to fill some time for him. Outside of contracts, we have a couple of holdouts to watch for as well. I mentioned the Cowboys we're trying to work out a contract extension for Dak, and it doesn't seem to be doing too well. They're also in talks with CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons. Dak and Parsons both in camp right now, doing workouts, trying to stay in good with the Dallas Cowboys to see if they can get that contract extension done. Meanwhile, CeeDee Lamb is doing workouts on his own on the side. He is a holdout, still a no-show at Cowboys camp, at least as of the end of July here. Cody, no luck, no luck. Okay. No, you're muted. Nope, I still don't got you. Okay, cool. Anyway, so Cody still had to work on that. I still don't hear him, but so CeeDee Lamb, someone we're gonna have to keep an eye on as we go towards camp and see if the Cowboys can work out a deal on him or any of their other stars, as we don't exactly know the direction they're going in as an organization right now. I think they would probably like to just sit there and let all of them play out this final year, but I don't know if CeeDee Lamb is going to go along with that the same way that Dak and Micah Parsons are. And then somebody who's kind of been in the doghouse, out of the doghouse for a long time now in San Francisco, Brandon Ayuk. He is a hold in at 49ers camp. So if you don't exactly know what a hold in is, it is similar to a holdout in the fact that they're not participating in team activities. I still can't hear you, Cody. But they are in the actual facility, so they cannot be fined the same way that a holdout can. So with the last CBA agreement between the players union and the NFL, they made it where a player has to go to mandatory workouts and to training camp, or they will be getting a fine from their team to basically come back. Now, to avoid that fine, players are doing hold-ins where they're in the actual facility, but they're not participating in activities while they try to work out the new deal. So we'll see if Brandon Ayuk can take care of that, or if they finally get him off the edge like they have been the last few years. It's noted he requested a trade 2 weeks ago, but the Niners did not really seem anxious to move him as they have been the last 2 seasons. Any luck, Cody? No. Well, it wasn't much of a sit back, relax, and chat when the second half of the conversation ended up being just me, but Cody's back. How are you?
You did a great job covering everything.
I hope I
Yes.
explained what a hold in is properly, because that's a little bit of a tough one.
Yeah, I tried to chime in, so that's what exactly what Jordan Love did this past couple weeks, so you might have heard about it a little bit that way too. But yeah, we're back, hopefully for the rest of the show, and hopefully we get this fixed out. We just talked about how we're gonna do more podcasts than ever before and back to weekly, and I can't even get my stuff together for the first time in August. So
Good times. But
training
anyways,
camp for everybody. Time right getting ready to approve for next time.
exactly. And if you saw what the bumper was as we jump back to Cody being back with us here, we're doing a mock draft today. And even better, we're doing a dueling mock draft today. So last time we did it, it was a cumulative. We were like, going back and forth who makes the final pick. Now we got a dueling mock draft. We're using World Cup rules. So if you need a reminder here, half point PPR. We have 14 rounds in this draft. It's normally 15. We are taking the defenses out for the mock draft purposes because you should always take them in the last round, or if there's someone you really like, maybe one round before, but that's it. Sleeper doesn't technically do a good job of that. So this will help us, get player grades a little bit better. 10 teams in the league, roster sizes, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flex, and 6 players on the bench. If you're watching us on Spotify or YouTube, you can already tell that Cody, being controlled by the Couch GMs profile, is on pick 7. I am on pick 10. Those draft slots were selected by a random number generator. Did I miss anything, Cody?
I don't think so. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, we're checking before we get in here.
And this is not sponsored by early 2000 Sprint.
Can you hear me now? Good.
How about now? I'm so glad you got that reference. That was a risk to go out and throw that, but you got it, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I know my early 2000s TV commercials, apparently.
Awesome. All right, you want me to hit start on this thing? Oh, let me hit your music off. Thank you.
Yep, there you go. We're good. You might need to turn that bell off too. I'm really not sure what that one does, but okay. Yep, you need to turn that off too. We got some ding ding going on here.
No, you have to turn off on your end, bud.
I turned mine off and turned it back on. Okay, cool. Here we are. My bad. Apparently, when I refreshed my page, it turned back on. Top 6 picks. We had CeeDee Lamb, the hold-in, going at pick 1. Then Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey to team 4 as the first running back. Justin Jefferson going first overall in a lot of drafts goes down to pick 5. And Amra St. Brown at pick 6. Cody, we're going to switch back and forth on our screen so you can actually show your draft board to the people. Here we go. Where are you going pick 7?
Cool. I will talk about that quick, but I just want to get your thoughts early. What are you thinking of those first 4? Are you still Christian McCaffrey's up there because of the value of the running back position? Do you like these wide receivers in front of him? Is there maybe 1 or 2?
I think 4 is a little late for me. Number 1, I'm someone who traditionally values running backs higher, but I think at this point, after last year, he's proven how much more valuable he is than even RB2. If you pick in those first 2-3 spots, you're getting such a leg up on the league by taking Christian McCaffrey. It's the same argument we had for years of why you consider taking Travis Kelce near the end of round 1. And I know that's not the case anymore, but it's not just how many points he's going to score, it's how many points he's going to score versus every other running back in the league.
No, I agree. I'd probably put him. 4 would be the latest. And I think those are the 3 in front of him. So I think it's a good value for Christian McCaffrey at 4, but just wanted to get your thoughts. But here with pick 7, if you're watching at home, you see Bijan Robinson is the top pick, or the suggested player, followed by Breece Hall, AJ Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Puka Nacua. Those are the next 5 guys. I'm at pick 7, and honestly, I feel like I don't like this spot at all after the first initiative, so I'm really excited to see how this draft turns out. I would love to get one of those top 6 guys. I feel like there's a tier break, and we talk about tier breaks a lot when we talk about fantasy football. For me, it's surprisingly between the running backs. For this one, I think
Not like
I'm at the second best option here. Do I want Bijan in a new offense? Do I want Breece Hall, who looked pretty good coming back? Jahmyr Gibbs, he had a really good end of last season. And to shake things up, change it up a little bit, I think it's really close between Breece and Bijan. But I'm going to go ahead and take Breece. Just shake things up a little bit. Did you want Breece?
I wanted Breece. So I don't know if this is just me and it's the caliber of the offense or whatever. Out of the three, I feel the most comfortable with Brees. So that's the move I would have went there if I were you. And that was who I was hoping to fall to 110. But I mean, Bijan, we saw so much back and forth. I understand it's a new coaching staff, new offense. Maybe he's going to be fine. We know he has the skill. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, like, you still have to look at how much is David Montgomery going to take there.
Yeah, especially in the goal line.
Yeah, exactly. So like there's still going to be a split there. I mean, Bijan, maybe that's a little bit less of a problem. Like, I love Tyler Algier more than the next guy, but like it's not the same caliber of player that David Montgomery is.
Yeah, but even the coach came out this past week and said, Tyler Algier is still going to be a part of our offense. I think Brees Hall will be more, or not Brees, Bijan will be more active. But yeah, and I just saw you switch the screen at home. So you were looking at your draft board. So why don't you talk about who you have
All right, I can
available?
squeeze this a little bit to try to make it match up to yours a little bit more. We probably should have done that pre-show. Anyway, so top running back left on the board, Jahmyr Gibbs. Other running backs down there, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley. Top wide receivers, Puka Nacua, Garrett Wilson, and Marvin Harrison Jr. Interesting picks here, and I do have the turn. So I can decide where I go running back, wide receiver, if I go double wide receiver, double running back. I've been leaning further and further away from going running back each of the first two rounds, especially now seeing how many wide receivers are going so early. I think you kind of have to go grab a bit of that top 2-tier wide receiver, or you're going to be hating yourself later. So I think I'm going to go split running back, wide receiver. What are your thoughts on Puka Nacua going this early? Because I feel like it's very rich, even though he had a great first season. I just think he's worth putting a little bit more talk into.
No, I'm back and forth on what to do with Puka. I mean, even last year, it was like, yeah, he's not going to keep doing this. He's not going to keep doing this. He's not going to keep doing this, but he did.
Yeah.
And I think he's passed Cooper Kupp as the top guy in that offense because he's younger, a little bit more explosive at this point in his career. And we've seen, that and the draft results. I don't think it's a bad pick, but there is a part of fantasy football is like expectations and stuff like that. And I don't know if he can surpass what he did last year again very easily. So I
Mm-hmm.
think if you're, looking at what he did last year and trying to recreate that, I think that's where I get the most hesitation. Like, how much is his regression? Is it, a couple, 100 yards and maybe 2 less touchdowns? Or is it 600 yards and 4 less touchdowns? Like, that's a big difference, especially when you're talking about your number one overall pick in fantasy for your
Exactly.
team.
And that is why I'm leaning Garrett Wilson here, and he's going to be the first pick on the turn because we already saw a lot of great flashes out of Garrett Wilson last year with whatever revolving door of quarterback they had. You have to think Aaron Rodgers is going to play more than 4 snaps this year, and that immediately gives Garrett Wilson a great chance to exceed what he did previously. And I'd rather take that upside than Puka Nacua hoping he matches a magical season that may end up being a career year. And I kind of hope it isn't, but you really don't know. So first round, end of the first round there, I take Garrett Wilson. These running backs are tough because Saquon Barkley, obviously super explosive. He's on an offense with a lot of other weapons and a quarterback that likes to steal goal line touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor doesn't quite have as much around him. I mean, Anthony Richardson, we never really saw a full year of him. We actually never saw him play with Jonathan Taylor, if I'm not mistaken, because Taylor was still hurt
Yeah.
while Richardson was in. So we don't really know how that dynamic is going to work. I think it could help him, but he's kind of been up and down. This is a decent spot for him to go. But I think even though I'm worried about David Montgomery, I have to take the upside in Jahmyr Gibbs as my RB1, even though I don't really love it.
No, I think that's a very good pick there. And I was, there is definitely the Cody part of me that was like, I would have taken Garrett Wilson, Puka Nacua there because I just love wide receivers. Um, but I definitely get the Jahmyr Gibbs. He that at the value at the turn, he'd still be a first round pick if this is a 12-man league. So getting him as your second pick is solid. Next up was Marvin Harrison Jr., followed by so he went ahead of Puka Nacua and
Yeah.
then Saquon Barkley. So that leaves me in a very interesting spot. So we just talked about, and I'll pop back over to my screen so everybody can see. I got Puka Nacua as the top guy, Jonathan Taylor, Kyron Williams, the Rams running back, Drake London, and Devontae Adams as my next 5. And if Josh Allen's peeking up down there, if you want to start having those quarterback conversations, which I'm not ready to have at this point, probably won't be for a while here. And, same topic we just covered with Puka Nacua here. And then do I want to go completely different than my normal draft strategy and grab a Jonathan Taylor? Like, I have Breece Hall, the high upside, but honestly, like, if you told me which of the guys that were drafted right now, led the league in rushing yards, Jonathan Taylor might be in that mix if he can stay healthy. That's a big if, for sure.
Do we like Kyron Williams as a possibility for that too after his breakout year?
I don't. The Rams, I'm so like, I didn't think the Rams were going to make the playoffs last year. Then they did. I still don't think they're a very good team. And they snuck in. But like, I don't know what to do. Like, is it weird that I'm kind of is dominant they were? Like, I feel like I'm almost like avoid the Rams because I just don't know, which is not a great, strategy. And it's still early and I can change my mind. I'm going to give myself every right to. But I just said I'm going to avoid the Rams. And I'm going to take Jonathan Taylor here. I'm going to go double running back. I never go double running back in probably as long as I've been playing fantasy football with George. He's never seen me go running back.
I actually have seen you go running back, and everyone was asking if you were okay. And it was in our league of record draft last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you're right. I went 3 running backs to start the draft. Now that I do remember that. And I made the championship
game.
I
think it was purposely him trying to go against his draft strategy, similar to how he's doing now. And I think you could tell. So not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like I'm interested to see if you've learned your lessons on how to draft going running back heavy early.
We'll see. But after me went Kyron Williams, then Puka Nacua, followed by Drake London, Travis Etienne, Devontae Adams, and Devon Achane, going to round out round 2. Before we jump into round 3, anything stick out to you, George, about round 2? The Achane pick, I think, could be very sneaky if he can stay healthy as well.
I agree. I mean, I'm obviously worried about Mostert stealing touchdowns there too, but I think this is going to be a revolving theme about every single running back besides Christian McCaffrey and maybe Breece Hall. Like, what else is going to happen there? Is it a quarterback stealing touchdowns? Is it another running back stealing touchdowns? So I think that's just comes with the nature of the position right now. Devontae Adams is one that it's interesting to me because he definitely has the talent to outperform a pick at 2-9, but does he have the help at quarterback to outperform the pick at 2-9?
Yeah, I think he does. We've seen him produce he still had 1,000 receiving yards last year. Nobody thinks that when they talk about Devontae Adams, but he still had 1,000 receiving yards last year with that revolving door of quarterback. Whether it's another year of Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew starting, I think he can continue to put up numbers as one of the elite wide receivers in the league. And honestly, 2 years ago, a Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams feels like a cheat code, but someone gets to rock that this year, which I think is a fun combination.
I like the third pick too. As we go into round 3, first team 1 took Chris Olave, and then that aforementioned team 2 took Sam Laporta. So holding off on the running back for 3 rounds, but they got Hill, Adams, Laporta. That's pretty solid. Josh Allen forced quarterback off the board at 3-3. Then Brandon Ayuk, the hold-in. Derrick Henry, new to Baltimore at team 5. And team 6 takes Nico Collins. The Houston wide receiver room is interesting.
For sure. And that means I'm back on the clock.
Yeah, you're
George
back on the
does
clock.
Not like the Nico Collins pick at all.
I'm very skeptical.
You're very Stephon Diggs, I think.
Yeah.
This is like 2 years ago, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. They were going like 4-5 or 3-6 or something like that. Stephon Diggs is I'm on the clock while George looks it up, but Stephon Diggs is like the 6th highest rated guy left on the board, maybe a little bit lower. But Josh Jacobs, Travis Kelce, Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, and Jalen Hurts are my next 5, which then would put Stephon Diggs about 3 picks after that. So that's kind of where we're at here. George,
I was blanking on a name, by the way. Tank Dell is the other one that concerns me, and I thought he was going to start on PB, and he's actually on their active roster currently. So, like, I guess 3rd round, you're going to start seeing guys that are in, like, these multi-level offenses, but, like, I kind of like Tank Dell better than Nico Collins. Call me crazy.
Yeah, so here's my dilemma. All right, 1, I could get another starting running back in Josh Jacobs if I wanted to go 3 for 3.
Homer.
And be called a homer. Then there's that guy that for the last 5 years has been a borderline first-round pick, still had decent numbers last year, still at a very select position, and Travis Kelce is right there. And then the next kind of wide receivers, Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, like, don't move the needle for me. Personally, like, the Deebo thing with Brandon Ayuk there and that offense and George Kittle, like, there's a lot of touches, very similar to what you're just talking about with Nico Collins. And then Mike Evans is the guy that, catches touchdowns, puts up 1,000-yard seasons. I just can never get behind in fantasy football for some reason. I feel like it's so high ceiling, low floor weeks. I feel like it's either 20 or 3 with him. And maybe that I don't have any statistical data to back that up here.
It's pretty accurate from my knowledge.
I just, man, this is tough for me right here. I am so tilting right now. I'm so sorry. This is
He's
terrible.
literally going eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Out loud.
I started to do it. Yep. And that's
and he's taking Jalen Hurts.
No, I'm not taking Jalen Hurts. I'm going to take Travis Kelce.
I like it just because he's still got an edge up on pretty much everybody in the league. Him and Sam Laporta could be very close this year, and the draft, rankings obviously have that. But it's the fact that that gap is gone between him and everybody else why he fell down to here. But he's still going to be an asset over 85 to 90% of tight ends you're facing on a weekly basis.
Definitely. And because he's going to be my de facto wide receiver 1 on my team at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So that did play a little bit into factor why I went with him over another running back. And the reason I was so considerate, because there's 2 tight ends that I can take a little bit later that I'm actually pretty high on this year. And I'll talk about them when they get picked, to kind of compare like who, if I could have gotten them, this round versus Travis Kelce, how that would look.
Definitely. So after you went Jalen Waddle and then Mike Evans, meaning coming back around to this 3-4 turn, I am on the clock. Switch back over here to me. Top players on the board include Josh Jacobs, Deebo Samuel, who we both talked about with Cody's pick, Jalen Hurts, who I hinted at, Isaiah Pacheco, Stephon Diggs, Patrick Mahomes, DJ Moore. So I was sitting there when you were up thinking, I really hope Josh Jacobs falls. If you would have taken 3 running backs, I would have laughed a little bit. Number 1, because you took 3 running backs, but number 2, because that would have been the second time you took a running back that I wanted. So I'm just going to go out here and be like, RB2 Josh Jacobs. I'm a fan. I'm going to take it. So that gives me Garrett Wilson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Josh Jacobs. I can go back to the wide receiver position. Cody hinted at me liking Diggs. I do like Diggs. But I'm very torn here between Diggs, Deebo Samuel, who is inconsistent, but as a wide receiver 2 that can go out there and win you a week in any given week, that's pretty valuable. It would be different for Cody, who didn't have a wide receiver. He would have been his wide receiver 1. That's very high variance. That's tough. I have Garrett Wilson, who should be pretty solid every week. And then DJ Moore is also very similar. There's a couple weapons around him. He does have a rookie quarterback, which is why I'm kind of leaning away from it. But that ceiling is there as well. In your opinion, who has a higher ceiling on a given week, Deebo Samuel, DJ Moore?
I think you're right. They're both very similar. Like, they're both guys that, yeah, they'll catch an over-the-top touchdown every once in a while, but they're the guys that, you throw that screen pass, they take it 40 yards to the house. You throw, a slant, they run it the rest of the way. So maybe you give the edge to Deebo just because he's on a little bit better of an offense. You weigh that versus DJ Moore potentially having more opportunities as the number 1. And it's still early too. Like, if I asked you Deebo Samuel, DJ Moore, knowing Brandon Ayuk got traded to the Steelers, like, that's the other.
That would be Deebo Samuel.
Right. So, like,
the other edge for Deebo Samuel, actually, thinking about it, he takes snap at running back. It's just touches. I'm not saying that he's normally super effective and makes all his points at running back, but you also have that in the factor of if McCaffrey gets banged up and he misses a week or 2 this year, Deebo Samuel gets more touches that week. I know they have other running backs in offense are going to get the bulk, but I'm going Deebo Samuel only because he's wide receiver 2. I like Cody's point that wide receiver 1 Deebo Samuel doesn't excite me. Wide receiver 2 Deebo Samuel can win you a week any given week, and you can normally take the blow if he does have a bad week.
Ah, man. So I'm up on the clock now after George took Deebo Samuel. Stephon Diggs went, then Isaiah Pacheco. I'm back on the clock here. And like the ultimate stack is staring me in the face with Patrick Mahomes sitting there. But
Early-ish quarterback. I guess it's not that third round quarterback that you see, but fourth round quarterback still early.
yeah, and I mean, only one quarterback is gone. There's still some other options, down here. But do I want to go running back, tight end, quarterback, and not have taken a wide receiver yet?
And this is your long term. It was a little different when you were going to 3-4 and only had 6 picks between you.
Right. Now, I will say, I would 100% have gone Patrick Mahomes here if DJ Moore was not still available. If DJ Moore went instead of Isaiah Pacheco, my pick would 100% be Patrick Mahomes here and get that stack. But because I can still have a high upside wide receiver in DJ Moore, I'm going to do that to add to my offense, and I'll worry about my quarterback later.
And you're also going to be working backwards on if you take DJ Moore as your high variance wide receiver 1, you're going to try to find a more steady wide receiver 2.
Exactly. Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe. We'll see how the draft goes. After DJ Moore goes the second quarterback off the board, Lamar Jackson, and then Malik Neighbors, Rashad White, Cooper Kupp, Michael Pittman, and Jalen Hurts is the third quarterback off the board, rounding out round 4. Round 5 starts with Trey McBride. Then Patrick Mahomes goes to team 2. Joe Mixon, DK Metcalf, Devontae Smith, and Ken Walker to team 6, bringing it back around to Cody. 2 running backs, tight end, wide receiver. Where are you going round 5?
Well, first off, I just want to let everyone know I am not actually drafting for team 2 as well. That is something that I've done a lot in the past. Through 5 rounds, not taking a running
Not a
back.
single running back, yeah. Or,
Uh,
team 9's at 4 wide receivers. That's the Cody team.
At least in the World Cup settings, you get 2 wide receiver, 2 flex. So, they're all starters.
That's
right?
true. You're going to, try to piecemeal together running backs throughout the year, waiver wire, but you're starting your big 4
You're going
wide
to waste all
receivers
that
every
fab
weekend.
week 1 when the running back breakout
Yeah.
happens.
But you're right. That's a strategy that could work because you're able to play all 4.
And then Trey McBride was one of the breakout tight ends. He started to come on strong at the end of last year. I think with the return of Kyler Murray, he could have a big role. And that's now 2 Cardinals weapons, not even named James Conner, going in the top, 5 rounds, with Marvin Harrison going and stuff like that. And then on the clock right now, James Cook is the first option if I want to go another running back. I got CJ Stroud, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Dalton Kincaid, and Tank Dell. So there's 2 more Texans, and if they both go by the end of this round or the beginning of the next one, that's 4 Texans players. So a lot of hype currently to start the season around that Texans offense. And again, I'm
That'd
not loving.
be so what? Tank Dell's the 3rd wide receiver in the rankings on there, and we're in round 5, and he's coming up.
Yeah, of a
How
10-man
often do you
league.
see 3 wide receivers in a 10-team league on one team going in 5 to 6 rounds?
12 teams, I would imagine both Stroud and Tank Dell will be gone by the end of round 5.
Yeah, and I
But
actually didn't mention Joe Mixon either. He's on the Texans now, if you forgot, as another. Yeah, there's so many Texans weapons.
exactly. Right here for me, this is a tough spot because there's not really, a position I would love to get here. I don't really love the Zay Flowers, Tank Dell, even Alvin Kamara goes a little bit lower. Don't really want to take a quarterback quite yet. I think there's some better options here. James Cook is interesting now that he's like the guy in Buffalo, but you still have Josh Allen stealing some plays or some stuff around there. I'm not going to obviously double up a tight end with Mark Andrews or Dalton Kincaid. So I'm actually going to scroll down a little bit just to see what's available. A little bit lower, there is Anthony Richardson, T. Higgins, George Pickens, Amari Cooper. So there are some wide receivers that it might be worth mentioning as well. And we're in round 5 too, so this is where ADP starts to vary even more and more. So if you want to take, the guy 10 spots down, go ahead and do it. Especially on the longer turn, this is a shorter turn for me. But Oh man, do I do it? Okay, I'll take Zay Flowers. I just
That's
talked
a great
myself.
high upside wide receiver pick there.
I think that was my thought. I was like, am I getting too tied up of trying to wanting to have something solid at wide receiver? Where some weeks they might not put up a lot of points, but hopefully most weeks they're, locks for 15, 16 points.
And I mean, I think there's room for improvement where Flowers was last year. Unlike we were comparing him to Puka Nakua, who it's like he might have maxed out his potential in year one. Zay Flowers had a great year, but he was splitting time more with OBJ. I don't want to say he was behind OBJ because he didn't really perform super well, but that's one more body out of the room that he's going to have more targets for. I think having Mark Andrews back might help him because it'll, make defenses think about something else. Thank you for switching back over there, Cody. Like, I think that's a great wide receiver 2 pick. Hopefully him and Moore. You just need one to hit every week for you to have a shot. That's what I'm thinking. After that one, James Cook and CJ Stroud. Here we are, 5-6 turn. I was hoping one of these 2 tight ends fell to me because I get very sketched out by tight ends like 7, 8, 9, 10. I know there's a lot of names down there that could end up being solid if you have a rebound of Dallas Goedert, for example. But I like going out there and getting somebody who I think I'm going to be able to rely on for 8 to 10 points every week, sometimes more. I'm going to go Mark Andrews here at the end of round 5, lock up tight end position. I mentioned it earlier. I wasn't a big fan of Nico Collins. Cody was like, Stephon Diggs is your guy. My guy is Tank Dell. I'm going to go with Tank Dell as my wide receiver 3.
Yeah, that's a good flex play. Definitely a guy that probably will be the most inconsistent of the 3, but will have his games where he wins you a week, and that's an okay place to be in your weekly flex.
Exactly. And then until Cody gets back, we had Amari Cooper and Dalton Kincaid win. I know Kincaid doesn't bother you. Have Kelsey. I don't think you were looking at Amari Cooper. Did I take either of your picks?
You did not.
Okay, here we are.
So I'm back on the clock. I can pop back over to my screen so you can see the draft board, which you can see on George's screen too, but you can actually see what he's looking at scrolling if he wants to. But the top 2 guys, Alvin Kamara, Anthony Richardson. I'm not taking Alvin Kamara. Anthony Richardson is interesting, super high upside. Can expect a lot from him. I do like, T. Higgins and George Pickens as potential guys as well. When we had our mock draft the last time, I talked about Aaron Jones, a starting running back in round 6. That's pretty tempting for me. And then Kyle Pitts. I know nobody wants to hear, this is the year of Kyle Pitts. We talked about it year in and year out. I already have a
Man, I'm
tight
so
end. So
done.
I'm not going to take him, but his quarterback is Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins took TJ Hawkinson from, a solid tight end to all pro top 3 fantasy option. He likes to target them. Kyle Pitts is super athletic. I think he could be a pick here.
Tell that to Irv Smith, man. Tell that to Irv Smith.
He can never stay healthy. So for me, it's between Aaron Jones and George Pickens. Do I want to go another high upside wide receiver on a bad offense, or do I want to take a starting running back on a bad offense? It
I
sounds like
mean,
you
at
want.
this point, with you being at 2-2, I think I would be drafting upside. So, like, there's the argument of the running back on the bad offense is going to get more touches because there's not as much there. But I don't know if you think that means more upside, or is that going to be a situation where, like, he's the focal point, so he's not going to be able to have space to move?
Yeah, it's definitely a tough decision to make here. Um, Honestly, it's a coin flip, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass George Pickens, even though I love George Pickens. I am going to take Aaron Jones to give me that safer running back because I have 2 running backs with extensive injury history as well. So give me a little bit more safety net. Obviously, I'm taking Aaron Jones, who missed a bunch of time last year. One of the reasons he is down here. So I'm taking the high upside wide receivers and the coming off an injury but finish strong running backs from last year as I take Aaron Jones here.
All right, finishing out round 6, we had T. Higgins and then Anthony Richardson. George Pickens, Kyle Pitts did go before the end of the round. Keenan Allen and David Montgomery, potential touchdown stealing threat there to round out round 6. Anything else in there you want to talk about?
No, I think I hit on everything.
Cool. And then Alvin Kamara went pick 7-1, followed by Ramondre Stevenson, James Conner, Joe Burrow with another quarterback off the board. Rome Odunze, that third Bears wide receiver off there, and then another Bear and DeAndre Swift going after that, coming around to 7-7 and Cody.
Yeah, and I'm back on the clock, and I think I talked about the DJ Moore pick and wanting to take Patrick Mahomes, but now it's just me, teammate, and George who haven't taken a quarterback, and I still see Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love. There's a lot of good quarterbacks still available, so I don't think I'm going to go in that direction yet. Maybe George will snipe one of them for me, but I think there'll still be a couple options left for me on the turn, which I might target a quarterback then. And again, it's just back to high upside potential with those wide receivers. So for me, it's which second year wide receiver do I want to take? Do I want Jaden Reed? Do I want Jordan Addison? Both coming off really good rookie seasons. And I'm going to give the edge to Jordan Reed this time, or Jaden Reed, sorry, because I just took a Viking. I don't want to double up on the Vikings here. If I would have taken, George Pickens last time, I might have went Jordan Addison there, but I don't need 2 Vikings on my team. So give me Jaden Reed here at the 7-7.
I really like Jaden Reed a lot. I think I actually mentioned that on our last show, so I'll save it. If you want to hear it, go back and listen to that last show. Christian Kirk goes after that, and then Terry McLaurin to bring it back to me on the 7-8 turn. Switch that back there for you all. I also like Jordan Addison a lot. So if I'm looking for that fourth wide receiver, that is definitely a big option. I'm trying to peek at who could be a running back 3. And obviously, we got Najee Harris sitting down here, who starting running back here, but that's got a sketchy hold on the job. And then Zamir White, who I think has a much better hold on the job, but not a great offense. So there's 2 different ways you can look at each of those. And then after that, we have a little bit of a running back lull. You got Tony Pollard's going to be a split down there. Raheem Mostert, who you're just hoping for touchdowns like you did last year. So tough is why I'm kind of looking at taking a running back on this 7-8 turn. Because I don't really want to have to struggle with a bye week fill running back or have to really rely on the waiver wire later. I'm hoping I can find at least one guy who can be a decent fill in that time. My favorite of this current group of running backs is Zamir White, just because I think he has a better hold on the job than Najee. I feel like we've been talking about, is Najee going to keep starting or not for like 2 years now. He had a good rookie year and then kind of has been mediocre since. So I'll take Zamir White at 7-10. And then coming back around to 8-11, do I like Jordan Addison enough to be that hammer at the second flex position? I don't know. I think the rookie quarterback or the quarterback situation, whoever ends up starting, is kind of concerning me when it comes to who's going to get targets behind Justin Jefferson or how many targets are there going to be behind Justin Jefferson. And especially because you still have TJ Hawkinson coming back at some point as well. I'm going to actually go a little bold here. I'm going to snipe one of those quarterbacks. It's not super bold in round 8, but take Kyler Murray because I like the rushing potential in fantasy for a quarterback. He's the last real good rushing quarterback left on the board. So I'm going to go snipe Kyler Murray.
Nice. I was hoping that Kyler Murray fell to me. But I didn't want to take I like Jaden Reed too much not to take him. There's a couple players here that I am considering. After George was George Kittle, then Dak Prescott. So both quarterbacks went. So now I'm the only team that hasn't taken a quarterback. So it's, do I risk it for the biscuit and not take a quarterback here and wait one more round and try to take a guy like a Hollywood Brown, who probably not him because he's the Kansas City Chief, or maybe a Chris Godwin or Jordan Addison, who I was debating last time. Calvin Ridley. Do I get Calvin Ridley and let him be the solid wide receiver that, probably isn't going to win me a lot of weeks, but you can count him for, a higher floor?
So we still have me on the screen. So just so you guys can see, the top quarterbacks now left: Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, Brock Purdy, Tua, Jared Goff. Those are probably the only guys. Then after that, you're kind of taking a stab. Like Herbert and Lawrence have a chance. Jaden Daniels is out there because he's a rookie with some upside. But like when I'm in this situation like you, and I'm the last person to not take a quarterback, the way I look at it is, how many of those quarterbacks am I okay with starting at least on a semi-weekly basis, or at least for week 1?
Yeah, and so I'll be honest. I really want Jordan Love right here to stack with Jaden Reed, to give me a
Makes
stack. It's
sense.
not a high stack, but I really like the option of putting a stack on my team. So he's very tempting for that reason. There is a couple other quarterbacks I probably wouldn't mind starting. So that's where I'm like, do I risk it for I'm literally debating Calvin Ridley versus Jordan Love. And then that question is, do you think it's Calvin Ridley as the wide receiver 1 or DeAndre Hopkins? Which one are you liking there? But because I think one of these teams are going to take a second quarterback for some reason, I am going to take the stack of Jordan Love just to get a stack. And then everybody in the comments, when they see Aaron Jones, Jaden Reed, Jordan Love, can just be like, Homer. So also make sure
Like
you
I was
drop
trying
that
to
in the
get ahead of
comments on
it.
the post. Yep.
I still like the pick. I think it ended up a quarterback didn't go, but we'll get to that here in a second. It's better to be safe in that case if you weren't really a fan of starting one of those other quarterbacks, which is also why I was like, once I get past X and Y, I don't really like playing these guys, which is why I went up and stabbed Kyler Murray out of there. Najee Harris went after you, and then Rashee Rice, Evan Ingram, Jordan Addison, Zach Moss, and Xavier Worthy to round out round 8. Round 9 started with Chris Godwin, and then Calvin Ridley went. Hollywood Brown, Raheem Mostert, Tony Pollard, DeAndre Hopkins. Back to Cody.
Interesting that 3 Titans players went in the same round. It's like, we don't know which one.
Ridley, Hopkins, Pollard. Here you go.
Exactly. So I'm back on the clock here, and I am a little disappointed because I'm always going to ask that question. What if I would have went, a Calvin Ridley? Would that a guy have taken a second quarterback this early? Would he have not? Did I essentially waste the pick by taking Jordan Love because I could have got him later? We'll never know the answer to that one for here. And then at this spot, there's Brock Bowers, the rookie tight end, Lad McConkey, the rookie wide receiver, Jonathan Brooks, the rookie running back who's on PUP to start, then David Njoku and Jake Ferguson round off the top 5. Both those tight ends. I'm not taking another tight end. I will stream the week that Travis Kelce isn't playing, but because I took him such high, I'm not going to take a second tight end. And then Nick Chubb is an interesting name because he's on PUP. Do you play the game where, you have some guys and you save them for the playoff run, or use them for trade bait the week before he comes back kind of thing? But might be a little too early to start playing gamesmanship. Maybe that's more of like an after the first 10 rounds kind of thing. So with that said, I love my wide receivers. I'm going to take a flyer on Lad McConkey. If you're like, huh, who's that? He is, rookie wide receiver for the Chargers, who, don't have a clear number 1. They have second-year player Quentin Johnson. They have, Josh Palmer. Those guys are predominantly outside guys. McConkey is going to play a lot in the slot. He's pretty shifty, but he's a little bit bigger as a slot too. So I think he could become a quick security blanket, safety net kind of guy and build that rapport with Justin Herbert. So as a flyer, wide receiver 4 on my team with high upside. I mean, heck, it's still his draft profile picture with him in a suit on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. So give me that guy.
Give him that guy. Jonathan Brooks went after, and then Nick Chubb. So if I was thinking running back 4, we did thin the field a little bit. A lot of tight ends at the top of the board right now. Okay, cool. You did switch me over. Thank you. Top 3 on the top available: Brock Bowers, David Njoku, Jake Ferguson, Deontay Johnson down there in Carolina, the top wide receiver, and then Javonte Williams in Denver, who does not have as tight of a hold on that job as he used to, but we know he has the ability. Makes it tempting if I'm thinking running back. This is where I really start rolling down a little bit and try to take a peek at who's kind of coming up that I might like. my man Austin Eckler all the way down here, but we don't really know what that Washington offense is going to look like. Seems like he's going to be using the passing game quite a lot, maybe not quite as much in the run game. A lot of Austin Eckler's value is going to depend on how many touchdowns he can get. Guy I really like down this far, Christian Watson. If you're talking about upside guy for your bench, Christian Watson might be that guy. A lot of chance for him to break out and become a top tier wide receiver, but it hasn't been quite there consistently yet, especially with the health. So he's definitely somebody I'm looking at. Devin Singletary, another starting running back on a bad offense down here as well. I'm not going to ask Cody who he's thinking because I'm sure we're going to hear it after I pick. I'm going to take Christian Watson at pick 9, 10, and then beginning of the 10th round. This one's tough. I mean, Caleb Williams is here. If I didn't take a quarterback, I'm not taking a second quarterback. I'm going to stick with Kyler Murray as my only one. Man. Do I want to hope I get a more consistent Javonte Williams, or do I want to take a swing that Austin Eckler is going to stay at a decent level in Washington's new look offense?
That's a tough one.
It is a very tough one. I think if I'm drafting upside, the answer is Austin Eckler because I think the touchdown potential and the pass catching in a half PPR helps a little bit. So I'm going to take Austin Eckler, and I don't expect to play him, but if I do, and I mean, there's definitely a chance I could, it's just a bonus in round 10.
Yeah, and let's be honest, we're in round 10 too. Like, we could probably speed this up a little bit, go through a little bit more lightning style because we are in round 10. And these are just guys we're taking shots on. You'll see a lot of times I'm taking a bunch of rookies or a bunch of second year players that I think you can break out. I mean, I've kind of already started that. Yeah, Jordan Love is in his 5th year, second year as a starter, Jaden Reed, second year player, rookie. Like, I've already been doing that since round 7. That's kind of where we're at in round 10 as well. Jalen Warren.
If you look at my team too, Tank Dell, second year players, Amir White, first year starter, Christian Watson, third year player, or is it second? Third year player.
Yep.
Yeah. So not much different.
No, and I think that's too where, you let your league mates fall into the traps of the guys that they've heard of before. Maybe Austin Eckler kind of falls a little bit into that trap. So you're playing a little bit of the both sides. Oh, Austin Eckler in the 10th round. 2 years ago, I was drafting him number 1. Yeah, we've seen him slow down quite a bit. I mean, his counterpart, Brian Robinson, I think is, right down here as well. Which one is going to be the starter? How much do you trust them? But Jalen Warren went next, then Brian Thomas Jr., the rookie wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm back on the clock. Like George mentioned, there is a ton of tight ends at the top of the board. So Bowers and Njoku Ferguson still sitting there. For me, there's 2 options here. There is Keon Coleman, if I want to take another guy, rookie.
I think they're all going to be a guy.
Or do I want to take a Devin Singletary, who's been around a little bit, but is probably the starter in the Giants? But how much do you want pieces of that offense? That's the big question there as well. I talked about Trey Benson before. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to take a second rookie wide receiver. Give me Keon Coleman. I'm going to hope one of those 2 guys pans out for me, and I have a guy that I feel confident starting as the season goes on.
Not bad. I mean, I like the strategy of if you're going to get them late, stacking up on some young guys because there's a good chance that 1, maybe 2 of them hit, and then that might be all you need to get over the top.
No, definitely. I like that. And then Brock Bowers, David Njoku, Javonte Williams, Deontay Johnson, Gus Edwards, and Jackson Smith and Jigba finished out round 10. 11 went Jake Ferguson, Caleb Williams, Brock Purdy, Devin Singletary, Dallas Goedert. So we got rid of those tight ends off the top of the board, and we started to get the backup quarterbacks going as well. That leaves a lot of interesting places for me to go as I'm back on the clock here. The short turn, some names I mentioned, Brian Robinson. There's some quarterbacks if I want to, try to beat George and the rest of the guys on their top 3 are picking up a backup quarterback as well because there's 6 picks in between me and my next one. There's a couple, wide receivers and running backs and all that fun stuff down here. And do I continue the rookie train of going with Trey Benson? No, I'm not going to continue the rookie train with going with Trey Benson. I am going to pull a surprise, maybe for you, George. Continue the rookie train with quarterback Jaden Daniels as
Oh,
a high upside, has some rushing ability. We'll see how he compares. Give me some options. Hopefully, I didn't just draft a quarterback because the same buy, as they do not have the same buy. Obviously, Jordan Love is week 10, so we'll see how Jaden Daniels even pans out. But give me that high upside uh, ceiling quarterback that may never see a start in my team except with Jordan Love's on by.
so with my draft strategies, I'll just go. So Jamison Williams went after him, and then Brian Robinson to bring it back to me. I normally either take 2 quarterbacks or 2 tight ends, never both. Sometimes neither. It depends on how the draft falls. So if that's the case, 11, 12 turn, I've got 4 more picks. I can start looking at my backup quarterback options: Justin Herbert, Jared Goff, both solid. And then tight end backup situation: Dalton Schultz, TJ Hawkinson. If we're talking about upside in round 11, 12, if I could go out there, grab TJ Hawkinson, stash him to pick up a flyer after the draft, or my defense if I decide to go no defense when we're actually going 15 rounds here. And then I can have a little more flexibility post draft. And if he comes back and performs, I have a chance to trade either him or Mark Andrews. If Mark Andrews happens to get hurt and then we have TJ Hawkins coming back, it gives me that insurance policy. That's why I kind of like going with a situation like that. When I have a solid tight end, I have somebody who could be a boom coming back later, gives me maybe a chance to play cards or maybe play chess while some other people are playing checkers. Just to make it fun, I'm not going to take him until round 12. I'm actually going to take Adonai Mitchell, rookie wide receiver in Indianapolis, with my first pick here. Just my stab at one of those rookie wide receivers to see if any of them break out. And then, like I said, TJ Hawkinson's going to be a pick at 12-1.
So I was going to take TJ Hawkinson over Jaden Daniels, but he was the only quarterback I would want as, guaranteed number 2 at this point.
I
But
think I'm a bigger fan of Jared Goff than you are.
Yeah, sure, probably. Jared Goff doesn't move the needle for me at all in fantasy football. Like, he is like top tier streamer, right? Like he doesn't, for me, he doesn't have the high upside. I will say Jared Goff and the Lions, they have like some weird schedule quirk where he doesn't play outside, which he's not as good outside until like the last 3 weeks of the season or something like that, when they go to Chicago and Green Bay and like back-to-back weeks, then maybe one other team or something like that. So they play most of their games. So it's a good pick. But he's the kind of guy that will probably get dropped and you'll be able to stream him. Jaden Daniels was that last high upside guy. So I took him, and I was gonna say I intentionally didn't talk about TJ Hawkinson to try not to give you some ideas, a little bit of gamemanship since we're drafting together. And
I
yet you
had that
still took me.
idea since you came up on the clock, but I like the idea of not talking about him.
So I got 2 picks left here. Um, and really we're just in that last bit of the draft here. And you can call me know what? I've talked about him before. I'm gonna take Trey Benson. I'm just gonna continue this run of rookies. Just give me that run of rookies. I'll take Trey Benson, the running back out of Arizona. Next was Chase Brown, who's looked really good in, filling in for potentially Joe Mixon, and he's in that battle with Zach Moss. Jared Goff went, then Cortland
You
Sutton,
missed Blake
Dalton.
Corum.
Oh, Blake Corum did go. He's the Rams guy out of Michigan. Then Sutton and Schultz, followed by Romeo Dobbs, who I was debating about taking there, but I was like, I need to not take as many Packers. We're in that training camp mode where like each week, each day, somebody else makes a play and you get really excited and you want them all, your favorite players on your favorite team. And Romeo Dobbs had 2 good days in a row. So like that pick and value in 12. And then round 13 is Justin Herbert, Curtis Samuel, which honestly, I forgot he was a Buffalo Bill. Maybe you did too. Zach
Yeah, a little bit.
Charbonnet, Khalil Shakur, Kirk Cousins, Cole Kmet, and then I am back on the clock for my last pick here.
The fun of Bills wide receivers, by the way: Keon Coleman 10-4, Curtis Samuel 13-2, Khalil Shakur 13-4. I think there might have been one more too, but they're not going early, but somebody's going to be good.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Hopefully it's Keon Coleman because I took him. And just real quick, I'm not going to take a third quarterback, but Trevor Lawrence, Matt Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Baker Mayfield, if you want to count Taysom Hill, Deshaun Watson, Will Levis, Geno Smith, like
You'll find
if
someone.
if there's any a year to stream, and I think you're seeing it. Heck, I mean, Patrick Mahomes didn't even go to round 5 in this draft. Like people are starting to realize there's a lot of, good quarterbacks, maybe not many elite quarterbacks, but good quarterbacks. George is probably a little upset that he couldn't draft Cole Kmet. I'm on the clock here,
I have
and
2 tight ends.
yeah, but that doesn't mean you wouldn't take another one. Xavier Legette is sticking out to me because he has a little R next to his name, but I think I'm done on the rookie.
We have now officially found Cody's newest thing. It used to be drafting wide receivers. Now it's drafting rookies with a lean on wide receivers.
Yeah, and then so for me, this is kind of where, if you play in a league with kickers, I would find a PUP player that I might stash, and maybe I would take a Mike Williams here to pair him up. If there's some other questions down here, there's not a ton of guys I'm super excited about. Like I really don't know where I want to go with this one. Maybe I want to go Jerome Ford, let him be the guy in Cleveland for a little bit, knowing that I'd have to move him eventually because Nick Chubb is going to be there. But as I tilt one last time, just because I can, I'm going to take Tyler Lockett in my last round just to pay some respect to what he used to be in fantasy football. And I'll grab
That's
Tyler
not your
Lockett.
last round yet, even. You have one more after this, buddy.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
It
you
is
do.
over.
That
My
is round
screen is over.
13, man. Just wait. It'll refresh for you. Trevor Lawrence went after you, and then Jerome Ford. I've got the 13-14 turn, if Cody wants to believe it or not.
I don't believe it.
Okay, that's good for you. Okay, I'm looking at some of those rookies here as well to try to get a little bit more youth on this team. I think I'm going to go one rookie, one veteran. I like Xavier Legette, like Cody said there. There are a couple people around him in Carolina, but I'm not too worried about it. It's a 13th round pick. I'll take the shot at it and see if they can start to figure it out in Carolina. Round 14.
It refreshed.
There you go. I told you. So interesting names down here. Josh Downs was a little bit of a breakout last year. You got Josh Palmer, who has a chance to be the number 1 in LA. Speaking of them, you got J.K. Dobbins here, who, if he can stay healthy and not get hurt, I saw a stat that was like he gets hurt on every 24 touches he has, but he's like really effective when he is not actually healthy, which is never. I think there's a chance, but I think that he's ended up being behind Gus Edwards for the most part. I'm going to take a potential sneaky wide receiver 1 on a good team, but he's probably not going to be in wide receiver 1 by the time the team season starts. He struggled last year, has a chance to bounce back if this offense is still good. Brandon Cooks. I know he doesn't really fit normally you take the young guy you're hoping to break out, but this guy's been good everywhere he went. And then all of a sudden last year, it just didn't click, especially if CD Lamb's in this for the long haul and Brandon Cooks is wide receiver 1. You got to think he's going to get something.
Hey, that's not a bad pick. Sorry, I was a little distracted as you were talking there, because the Packers confirmed they are dropping a all whiteout uniform, including a white helmet, coming this season. So
I wonder if that's going to be worn in Brazil.
it's not going to be worn in Brazil.
Okay. I didn't know if I still don't know if these teams are going to wear green or not. We haven't figured that out.
I mean, they are technically the away team, so maybe, but it's not. They still have a green and yellow stripe down the side, so it's not
Okay.
completely white out.
Yeah. So the Eagles are the one that still have the one jersey that's not green at all because they have the blackout jersey.
Yes. Yes, but that's enough jersey talk.
Okay, cool.
I'm up.
You are up. So between my pick and yours, Pat Freiermuth, I'm interested to see how he does this year, and Jacoby Myers, where are you going with your final pick that actually exists?
So, as you can see on my screen, I've scrolled down a little bit, not very far, but a little bit. And yeah, if I was taking a rookie, I would take Jalen Wright, but I went old guys to round out my draft, and I'm going to take J.K. Dobbins. You talked about him enough, the potential that he has. Give me J.K.
I just couldn't
And that
believe
was a
that I
serious
saw
pick.
that. I just couldn't believe I saw he's literally averaging an injury every 24 carries. That's absolutely insane.
For sure. For sure. Full draft board.
I'm sorry. I know you're going to ask thoughts on this draft. I am in awe at Team 9. Did not take a running back until sorry, let me zoom in on my screen so I can see better.
Really 10.
Round 9, basically round 10 because it was 9-9. Their running back room is Nick Chubb, who hopefully he saves them when he comes back from injury. Jalen Warren, Brian Robinson, Tajay Spears, Jerome Ford. I guess that the computer was smart to take Ford to go Chubb because you're going to have one starting running back. But what?
Sorry, I was
Could have got
getting side
distracted there.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
were
if you didn't hear
talking.
me, to go Chubb with Ford was smart, but like, what?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. But it's interesting. I mean, I can't say I've never done something like that. So, I mean, if
Round
you,
9's drastic. I don't know if I've ever seen you go till round 9. I've seen you go to round 6 or 7, maybe.
but like, let's think about this. If it's bold, but if Jalen Warren is the starter over Najee Harris and Brian Robinson is the starter over Austin Eckler,
Austin Eckler.
you have two starting running backs. You're going to get Nick Chubb back. You have his, you know, replacement in the short term, and then you have Tajay Spear, who has a little bit of upside, pass catcher, and a half-point PPR. So not crazy if you break it down on pay. Like first startle jump, oh yeah, definitely get that, but not terrible. And maybe that's just my I don't like to draft running backs personality talking.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you were looking for people who have potential upside down there, that's good. I think if you would have told me they took Aaron Jones in round 6 instead of Amari Cooper, I would have thought better of it. And that's not even the I can't stand Amari Cooper in fantasy talk. That is the I would at least have a solid starting running back to go with my Chubb Ford split and hoping someone breaks out. Especially because they consider the fact that they're not going to be able to start Amari Cooper
Yeah, or McLaurin.
or McLaurin. Exactly.
So yeah, definitely an
But
interesting strategy. I mean, I love my team. I'm sure you love your team. But team 2, we talked about them early with the Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Sam Laporta. I really like them adding Michael Pittman and Patrick Mahomes, and then getting Keenan Allen, Ramondre Stevenson, Zach Moss to balance it out. Like add Caleb Williams in there as a flyer. Grab Jalen Wright was a guy I mentioned. Team 2 is probably my favorite, and maybe one of the spots I'm gonna be looking at drafting in this upcoming season.
again, a little late for running back, but I still think I like the Stevenson, Moss, Gus Edwards debate better than
He still
that
had
Team 9
3
debate.
before Team 9 had 1 that he could start week 1.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But that's a little bit more on the if you're going to go 0 running back, I would play it more like Team 2 than Team 9 did, but that's interesting. Let's look at the flip side just for a second. Team 8, 4 running backs in the first 5 rounds. So they
5 and
got
6 in total.
6, yeah. So Bijan, Saquon Barkley to start off. Their 2 flexes, Isaiah Pacheco, James Cook. I mean, from what I've gathered, I feel like running backs have a little bit less of a ceiling, at least once you get outside the top few, than wide receivers do, which is why I've been going more wide receiver heavy lately. But if you're talking about 4 solid running backs that could get you points week in and week out, you're looking at a pretty good group there. And then you still got Christian Kirk as a wide receiver too. And then you have to hope you find somebody else to kind of fill in with those young guys down the bottom. But you got a chance and you just got to ride the waiver wire.
Definitely. And I think that's an interesting one. And I just know for me personally, it's always if I'm going to have a flex position, normally you're not talking about the elite of the elite unless you go super early, like 3 wide receivers or not even 3 running backs anymore. But someone like Team 9 who went 3 wide receivers, like most of the time, those positions are very equal. And especially in half point and as you get into full point PPR, I always tend to lean to the wide receiver. And that's why I've become known in our friend group as the guy that drafts way too many wide receivers.
Exactly. Any other thoughts before we get on out of here?
No, I don't think so. That is me stalling to find the music as we jump out of here a little bit longer. But like George mentioned, we're back as we go to the round flyer. as you get into your draft season. As always, make sure you follow us at the Couch GMs on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, TikTok, all those good places. George and I, maybe Tyler, will be back next week, and we'll see you all then. Woo. Can't hit the button. There we go.